Word Balloon, celebrating 16 years of excellence for you. Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. I'm happy to welcome Dave Scheidt to Word Balloon. It's good to see you, Dave.
What's up? What's up? Thanks for having me, John.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. We've been talking about this book off the air for a long time, and now it's finally here.
There he is, right there.
Absolutely. Who's the publisher?
So it's through Random House. It's Random House's middle grade graphic novel imprint called Random House Graphic. Yeah.
That's excellent, man. Very, very cool. Believe it or not, everybody, this is a children's story, but it is based on a true story, right?
Yeah, there's honestly all over the US there's a bunch of like dog mayors and dog and cat mayors and all that stuff too. So it's like you steal from the best. That's what we say in the industry, right?
So yeah, is this, did it happen in a real, like, is this specifically about a specific town or whatever?
So it's kind of sort of like an idolized version of where I grew up. But it's definitely inspired off of just like the various like pet mayors throughout the US, which is there's many. My dream is to kind of like do like a tour and like get to meet all the other dog and cat mayors of the US. That would be an honor.
So of course we've got His Honor the Mayor himself.
Yeah.
Tell me about these other characters that are in the story.
So basically, the setup of the book is those two little kids right there, Abby and Aaron, and they basically are like junior aides to the mayor, and they basically get a summer job where their job is kind of just to like win the town over, and basically they work for Mayor Goodboy, and Miss Monica right there eating pizza. That's like the deputy mayor. So.
Oh, very good.
That's the whole crew. Yeah.
So yeah, we got civic politics going on as well as the humor and stuff. And here I know I got a picture. Hold on a second, because the mayor really likes it. Yes, cheese.
Same
kind of cheese.
Yeah, that's definitely inspired by my obsession with cheese.
Oh, that's funny because honestly, yeah, who doesn't like cheese? But honestly, I just know that dogs absolutely love cheese.
Oh, they love it. They love it.
That's excellent. Very, very.
Yeah, growing up, my grandparents lived next to people who had a dog named Pepper, and my grandpa would buy this like fancy deli cheese and like let us feed it to Pepper, and she would freak out. He would literally just buy, like, I never saw him eat that cheese. I think he would specifically go to buy the cheese for the dog. So that was definitely my shouting that out. So amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I know for my own dog. Absolutely, man.
They love it.
Cheese lover. Everybody, just so you know, I'm looking at my internet and it's low. Oh no, okay, it's popping back up. For whatever reason, if I pop out, wink out for a second, Dave's gonna have to vamp. I'm just warning you, Dave. I don't know what the hell's going on, but
I could perform a routine or something. I could improv something. I could rap or something.
Yeah, exactly. God, I would really love it if you rap. That would be that's fantastic. Absolutely. So you've been doing a lot of comic books, and we're going to acknowledge some of the recent comic book work as well. But I really wanted to talk to you as well about the transition to books. And I mean, you're not the only guy that clearly it's the book market where children's comics obviously are thriving the most.
Yeah. It's honestly, like, for what it's worth, it kind of feels like a natural progression for me because I love comics, I love the community, and I've always felt like welcome. I just feel like the work I've always done, which Mayor Good Boy is still very much a book I would always want to do, even if no one was reading it or no one was publishing it. My work sort of just gravitates towards, I don't know, that specific market, I guess. But there's a really cool thing happening, I feel like, in children's publishing, where there's a really cool sort of like mixing of like indie comics and kids comics. So it's like all these people that like me who are doing like zines and mini comics like 10 years ago are doing like kids comics now, and it's not like it's like a natural progression, if that makes sense. It's still the same type of work we've done. It's just thankfully on like a grander scale. I'm still kind of trying to make sense of like my work being in like Target and stuff, but like awesome. It's cool. It's an honor to be able to do something on this big of a platform, I think.
I understand. Oh, look, Henry's saying hello. Good to see you, Henry. And I liked what Comics and Coffee and Metal said, of course.
Oh yeah,
our Good Boy rules.
What's up, dudes?
And Henry wants you to tell the bathroom story, Dave. By all means, tell the bathroom story.
Bathroom story. Okay, so now I don't that. If he's talking about the one, I think it's not like gross or anything.
No problem.
I think. Oh yeah. So at San Diego Comic-Con, I was telling Henry one time about how we were kind of terrified to go number 2, and because I went to like public school, because like if we knew someone was like taking a poo during school, they would take paper towels and like dip it in water and like throw it over like the stalls. Well, I knew kids like who literally held it in for like 8 hours, and didn't poop until they got home. And it's like, man, I wish I could still do that, but I have no shame now. I'll poop wherever.
I understand. I do know I know the good bathrooms at the Javits Center, where you really do have privacy and everything's fine.
Oh yeah.
And no, good Lord. I mean, you're friends with the Yak Comics crew just like I am. Yeah. And sadly, when we come back from every convention, there's always one bathroom story. My favorite happened at the Javits Center, where a guy, I'll put my arms up here, but you can imagine, is literally peeing without grabbing his junk.
That's talent, yeah.
Well, not really. And he got bumped. So he
no.
He nailed the guy next to him. And then my God. So long line, there's literally like 15 people watching this happen. And he goes, the guy goes, "Hey," and he goes, "Well, I'm sorry, I was jostled," and really did have that comic book guy nerd voice. And he goes, "Don't stand there like fucking Superman in the tree, asshole." Like,
it's funny to me too to go like he would be the one getting mad about that. Like that was his fault. Like he flew way too close to the sun with that one.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. I don't even think Kal-El pees that way.
I like that stance too. That's good. I like that.
And literally, that's how he was peeing. And I'm just like, what are you trying to prove, pal? Whatever, man. God bless you. So, and
that's the one thing. Public bathrooms. That's what I don't miss about comic conventions. I miss the people. I miss the churros. I miss weird celebrities. I do not miss having to poop surrounded by like stormtroopers and Naruto.
God only knows what panel opens up to allow that to happen for the story.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
I don't want to know.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, it's so true, man. Literally, I probably have at least 6 or 7 like con bathroom stories. It's like only in man. Only Are you going to any? Are you planning on going to any shows? I know we have C2E2 in December.
Yeah,
and we'll see what happens. I mean, I know the COVID numbers are popping.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm kind of just piecing out the rest of the year, which is like the timing's very strange because like the book comes out in September, so it's almost like the perfect time to promote. But it's like I'm just gonna sit this one out. I just don't think I'd be comfortable doing it and everything.
Okay. Yeah. What do you do to promote the book? I mean, again, as opposed to. I just want to, instead of being at convention stuff, what are you?
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about the book markets, like, Witchlight Comics has done a pretty good job with this too, as far as like adapting. We'll probably just do like digital events and stuff. Like you'll still do it through bookstores, but it'll just be kind of like this, like live talks and stuff. And then maybe some smaller scale stuff, maybe some like in-store stuff. I think just like the craziness of like a convention is just like, a little too much for me. But we're for sure going to do some signings and some talks and stuff like that. So we're still for sure going to be promoting it, just not at like conventions and stuff like that. But
sure.
Yeah.
How about libraries? Because I would think this is perfect,
like, for sure,
reader kind of book for for library kids too.
So that's the cool thing is because like coming up through the direct market, there's always this thing like building your career. You do it through Wizard World and C2E2 and conventions, and I've been doing that for 15 years, 12 years, whatever. So the cool thing is, it's like there's like book fairs and there's library visits and school visits and stuff like that. And I think like naturally that's like where my career is gravitating towards. And I'm essentially already like just like a giant 12-year-old, so it's like my comfort levels are like like those are really fun to do. Honestly it's a really different world, and I'm kind of just like winging it, but like it's exciting being able to kind of work in different ways.
Beyond parents, are you talking directly to librarians and having that kind of back and forth?
Yeah, thankfully, like I know a lot of like librarians and teachers and stuff like that, and Random House has been really awesome as far as like getting me in touch with people and scheduling and all that. So we're doing 3 books, so there's gonna be quite a bit of promotion between like those and everything. So it's exciting. I'm really looking forward to it because I feel comfortable doing it. I love libraries, I love schools, and I just think about when I was in school, I would freak out like if I knew that an author was like from my neighborhood where I grew up and stuff like that. So I take stuff like that really seriously, and I think it's really cool. And sometimes that's like the little push I feel like kids need to like pursue, drawing or writing or art or, whatever they want to do. It's just that like, for kids, like books just like exist, but when they actually like process the idea of like, oh, hey, I made this, and then they meet you, they're like, it kind of blows their mind, so being able to be part of that, it's really, really cool. So that's why like library visits and school visits like that, they're a lot more intimate. You're able to actually have conversations and like connect more instead of just like a convention where it's like, nonstop madness. It's nice where you can kind of just like, they're a lot more relaxing, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, I don't know. I know ALA had their book expo a couple of years ago here in Chicago.
Yeah,
I'm going to attend. I forget if they're continuing and they're or if they're morphing into a different event. But I certainly do welcome the opportunity to do another book expo because you're right.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different vibe, and it is much more relaxed in a good way. And it's really more of an industry show than it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Show. Although they do usually have like a fan day, which is smart.
Yeah,
you really have different conversations, which I'm always welcome to. So,
well, it's cool. It's just like a different vibe because it's like, everyone you're talking to either works in publishing or works in schools or works in libraries, and these are the people who are directly impacting my career. These are the people who are getting my book in front of people and stuff like that. It's not just like hard selling your book to strangers. It's like establishing relationships and future stuff and all that. So it's like I said, I'm learning a lot. It's definitely like a not a strange jump from direct market, but it's like it's just done so differently. Like the work itself is the same, right? Like creating and drawing and writing, but like everything else is just like dramatically different, which I appreciate. I like,
I'm with you, man. Yehudi wants to know if we've mentioned him yet. We haven't, but good.
No, what's up, dude?
How are you, man? Very cool.
Hi, Yehudi.
He's one of my favorite people in comics.
There he is.
Yeah. So no, again, one of those random guys you run into at Artist Hut. It's like, hey, good to see you, man. Jesus.
There he is.
So that's awesome. You do have some other books that are hitting the direct market still.
Mm-hmm.
And we should mention some of these. Now, has Last Airbender already come out? Or
Yeah, so they actually just the actual initial release of that came out. Man, my concept of time is just completely off. Maybe like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. But they actually just republished it into those really nice like Dark Horse Library editions. So that just came out a few months ago. So those like huge, beautiful hardcovers, which I'm obsessed with the Hellboy ones. So being able to be part of like a beautiful hardcover is like really cool. Like those books are gorgeous.
Absolutely. Tell me about this story. What did you do for Last Airbender?
So it's funny because I think like when you're asked to pitch stuff, you're kind of just like coming up with like, like little quick ideas and kind of, you you kind of try to figure out a way to like put your own voice into something that already has its own voice, right? Like it's an established thing. So it's not even so much you're really trying to stand out. It's just figuring out a way to, at least for me, figuring out a way to tell other people's stories in like the way I would tell them. So luckily they let me do like a kind of spooky Halloween thing for one of them, which was really fun. And then another one is just basically kind of just like a comedy. And working on that was crazy because I grew up, you know, watching Nickelodeon, and I have a lot of respect for the people who work on that show and all that. So that was really, really fun to work on because the fan base is just like super hardcore and like dedicated. And
oh yeah,
it's a bit terrifying when you work on like a huge property like that. But thankfully, so far I haven't got any death threats or anything like that. So I guess I'll count that as a good thing.
Yeah, that's a win, definitely.
It was a lot of fun to work on though.
Gee, here's an idea. Scoot McMahon is joining us, and he wants to hear about Wrapped Up. Gosh, I wonder why.
Yeah.
So there's a great cover, and of course, this is a series that you and Scoot came up with. How long ago did this start? And again, I know you got to do extra math for COVID, so I understand.
I wish I would have had a cheat sheet because I feel like I'm like super unprepared for this.
Don't worry.
Wrapped Up was a couple years ago. Wrapped Up kind of came about where basically I met Scoot just through like Aya Comics and like local scene and all that. Like Scoot's out of Ohio, but Scoot's one of those people where, you know, when you meet them and you kind of realize like immediately that you have like a shorthand, you know, it's like they get your type of humor and they kind of get your vibe and all that. And meeting Scoot was kind of just like right away. I was kind of like, you know, we vibed and all that stuff. So we did a couple 3-4 page short story for Aya Comics. And just, you know, to this day, we're still working on stuff. We got a secret unannounced project. It's going to be announced, should be soon. It's going to be out next year. So hopefully they'll announce that soon. And yeah, Scoot's the best. We could have done 1,000 issues Wrapped Up. Like, it's just so fun. It's just so much like me and Scoot. Like, there's so much of us in that book. And I love it. To this day, we're still just super proud of the work we did on that. And we still get letters from kids and stuff like that. Like, comics is weird because it's kind of insular, you know? You make them in your bedroom and in coffee shops and stuff like that. And, you know, it's nice when, like, people you know will be like, oh, hey, this is really funny, or people, like, in your city. But when you meet just, like, random strangers who have no obligation to, you know, blow smoke or whatever, we'll just meet kids who just, you know, love our book. And it's, like, it means a lot. It's really, really cool because that book means a lot to us. And we would have loved a book like that when we were younger. That's basically why we made it. And yeah, we love it. It's a lot of fun.
Fun concept. Family of Mummies, obviously, from the cover. For my audio audience, I'll let you know if you're not aware of Wrapped Up. So, you know, I got to be honest, and I love the Karloff classic, and I like the Hammer Mummy as well.
Oh yeah.
But I have to admit that you know, Al, and shame on me, one of my blind spots have not seen the Brendan Fraser movies.
Oh yeah.
Obnoxious on my part because I know they're great popcorn movies.
There's a huge resurgence too. Like, I'm obsessed. Like, we loved that when we were kids. Like, that's like one of my dad's favorite movies. Like, my dad probably brings that movie up like weekly. And there's been it's cool in that weird, I don't know if it's on Netflix or streaming, but it's so cool seeing a movie like being like reassessed and kind of just being brought back into like vernacular. And like, people are like huge, like on Twitter, like, you know, all these people are obsessed with, you know, Imhotep and Brendan Fraser. It's fun though. It's really good. You should watch it.
Yeah, I should, man. No, you're absolutely right.
Love it. All-time favorite.
You know, did you see the Tom Cruise attempt to revive the Universal movies?
I didn't, but the only thing I know of that is, did you see they released an IMAX trailer like before it came out, and they messed the audio up. So like 3 or 4 audio tracks were gone. So it was just like isolated audio tracks of like Tom Cruise screaming and like no sound effects. You should look it up. It's on YouTube. It's like
that's
one of the funniest things in the world. Like they actually officially uploaded it and didn't realize that they like muted a couple tracks. So it's like ambient noise and like Tom Cruise like screaming as he's like jumping out of an airplane. It's really, really funny.
And, you know, we're going to, because again, there's another franchise that they're trying to revive. I find it fascinating that the attempts to revive various franchises and the successes and failures and stuff. God, I was
Yeah.
watching a YouTube video this weekend, sort of in the mummy world, about Stargate. And maybe now that Amazon bought MGM, that hopefully Stargate will be revived. I'm all for it. I'm a big Stargate guy.
Well, it's always cool when they kind of do that mix of like ancient Egyptians and like space and just like all the stuff of like, you know, how science existed before we understood the concept of all that. That's so cool.
Are you an Ancient Aliens watcher?
I would say I'm a skeptic. I think you know what, I think there's stuff that happens in the universe that we can't explain. I'm receptive towards it. I think there's someone hanging out in outer space.
I'm not saying believe it. I'm just saying watching it because, hey, man, I mean, really, I remember again, being an old man, I remember in the 70s when Eric Von Däniken and Chariots of the Gods came out, and especially the documentary, and you had Serling, could these perfect landings or actually could they be alien land strips for alien vehicles? And it's like,
I think anytime someone brings up something like, you know, cryptids or monsters or Bigfoot or Loch Ness Monster, I always just think about like how almost like every day they discover like weird new species in the ocean or something, you know, like some weird new fish or something in the jungle that we didn't know existed, or some weird, you know, microorganism or something. So it's like, I don't think it's that far-fetched, the concept of like life existing somewhere that we didn't look or didn't know about, you know. So
sure. Well, also,
I'm down for it.
In the last couple of months, they've released that video that all the Navy pilots in the Air Force.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, all right, we don't know what the hell this is, right? But it's out there, so
but they like someone was explaining to me that like the like how strange it is that they like brought that up like almost kind of unprompted, because wasn't that part of the like COVID relief bill? They like snuck that in where they had to release those information. It was one of those.
Yeah, I don't know why it was connected with that time. Yeah. You're right that it did come out then, and it's just like, yeah, that is weird. God, again, growing up in the 70s, there was a Jack Webb show called Project Blue Book that all it did was like document all the various reports that the Air Force had gotten and everything. I don't remember if it was only one season or a summer show, but didn't have a long life, but it was still interesting as hell back then.
Oh yeah.
When it was all the rage and everything. And now it's like, all right, now we even have real footage of either that or, you know, the other countries are eating our lunch in terms of coming up with probes.
Oh yeah.
Because
that could have been like some weird Russian,
you
know, vessel or some weird Cold War thing or something like that, you know.
Who's to say?
Absolutely. Yeah, but the fact that they basically were like on the record of being like, we don't know what this is. We're acknowledging it, but we can't explain it. That's pretty wild.
It's insane. Back to your books. You've got a cool book coming out in September, and you're doing a Star Wars adventure. Is this your first time in the Star Wars universe?
It is, and I can't believe I'm hearing you say that, because I'm not going to believe until I'm holding it in my hands, because I'm like such a I grew up with it. Like Star Wars has always just been this.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like many people, but it's just a gigantic part of my life, and it's so wild to think about that they let me do that, but they did. So.
What can you tell us about this story without spoiling?
Okay, so back to what I was saying with, you know, pitching when you kind of try to put your own spin on something.
Yeah.
So in the 90s, you obviously like you remember like Goosebumps and Fear Street and R.L. Stine and all that stuff. They did a certain.
I didn't understand you. What did you say?
Like R.L. Stine, like Goosebumps. And Fear Street.
Yes. Yeah. All right.
So in the 90s, growing up when I was a kid, they had these books that are essentially like Goosebumps within the Star Wars universe. They were like, you know, middle grade horror novels, but they were like, you know, spooky Tusken Raiders and Wampas and stuff like that, called Galaxy of Fear. And I was obsessed with those because it was like these two things that I love, like horror and Star Wars. And they did, I'm trying to think how many they did. I believe there's like about under 20 of those books. But anyway, they just did those books. And, you know, they asked me to pitch Star Wars. And when you pitch, my process essentially is just like, I just give them a bunch of like, you know, 10, 15 ideas. The more you give them, I feel like the bigger chance you have of actually them picking something instead of being yes, no, yes, no. So believe it or not, this one that they chose was kind of my left field pitch. This was me kind of just being like, oh, they're never going to let me do this. And I was basically like, hey, I think it would be really cool if we brought back Zach and Tosh, these two little kids from those novels, because I love those books when I was little, and they haven't been around since. Like they were in those books in the 90s, and they haven't been brought back since. So I was like, how crazy would it be if I was able to bring these characters back that I loved as a kid? And people, and that's the thing, I thought people forgot about them, but when this was announced, I'm seeing people on Reddit like mentioning me and being like, oh yeah, this writer is bringing these characters back and all this stuff too. So it's like these characters mean something to a lot of people, you know, because I feel like the cool thing with Star Wars is since it's lasted so long, everybody kind of has their entry point into Star Wars. And that wasn't necessarily an entry point, but that was my like, this was my Star Wars, you know, this was like catered towards me. This is like what I love about Star Wars in like a different way. So yeah, so I was able to do that. And like I said, I still kind of can't believe it. And it's Stefano Simone's drawing it, which he's like amazing. He's doing this book called Good Luck at Boom. And he did this really amazing Mega Man series at Boom Studios. And he's been sending me art from it. It's like amazing. Stefano's like amazing. He's so good.
Is this a 10-page story or a 20-page story? How long is it?
It's an 8-page story, I believe.
Okay.
10 or 8-page story, yeah.
Fair
enough. Yeah, it's it's actually writing Star Wars isn't nearly as hard as like the crushing like pressure of being like, you get to write Star Wars. What are you going to do? But when I actually did it and they approved it, it was cool. But just that like thought of like getting a little peek behind the curtain kind of freaked me out a little bit, just because I'm like a fan and I wasn't sure if I should keep those two separate, you know. But I'm glad I didn't, because I'm super proud of the story and how it came out, and I hope people dig it.
That's awesome, man. And again, it shows the strength of extended universe stories. And I mean, I'm more versed in the Star Trek extended universe.
Yeah, of course.
But that said, absolutely. And also the importance when, you know, a time when the franchise was not down, but not making movies. So clearly.
Oh, it was a weird time. Yeah. It was, you know, even like, because it was, I guess it's considered extended universe, but it was a really weird time. Yeah. Because it was it was before the prequels, and it was actually before the special editions too. So it was
sure.
Well, yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, to keep like, I mean, I read the novels and I loved all the Dark Horse comics that were coming.
Yeah, they're great. They're amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, no, this was it was an interesting time, and that's why I'm really curious once we have more space from the sequels to see what everybody does next, because I mean, there clearly seems to be a shift when you look at I even saw you tweeting about how much you like Bad Batch.
Yeah, it's great. It's amazing. Yeah.
And you know, and it's connecting with me in a way that Rebels and the Clone Wars didn't, and I can't explain it.
Totally. But well, you know what? It's got that really cool mix of like what makes Clone Wars work. You know, it has the setup in like the logistics of Clone Wars, but it has the heart of Rebels, but then it has this completely different thing. And I think that's what's really cool about Star Wars, and that's what was so cool about working on this story based on those books, was like Star Wars is just this like huge, gigantic, vast universe, and it's so cool to see us, you know, creators and people being able to tell different types of stories within this like recognizable thing, you know. And when the whole like Dark Horse thing happened, everyone was kind of freaked out, and even just like the Disney thing, because they were like, you know, they were thinking all the stuff that existed beforehand like doesn't matter. Like people have this weird obsession with like canon, but it's like those stories still exist and they're still being reprinted and they're still great. You know, like I think people get too caught up in the concept of like Star Wars stories having to tell you something new or feature someone like you know, a favorite character or something like that. So that's why I'm glad to see, and I think that's why I connected so much to it as a kid, because it felt like it was like made for me, you know, like it was like scary and spooky, but it also had like Jedis and like Boba Fett and like Vader and, you know, stuff like that. It's cool.
Are they? Is this picking up where their stories left off in the 90s? Are they older?
They're pretty much the same age within the books. That was the cool thing about the books, is it was kind of just like, you know, Goosebumps kind of, where it was kind of just, there was an overarching story within it, but they were almost kind of just like little adventures. And I think that's what's so cool about Star Wars. And just like as a writer, I'm so character specific. So I feel like when you write really good characters, you're able to throw them in any situation and be able to like figure out how they would respond and how they would act. So yeah, I think that's why Star Wars is so long lasting, because the great characters, like people connect with them, and they feel lived in.
Are there other franchises like Avatar or Star Wars that you would like to write stories on?
There are, yeah. It's no secret that I'm like a huge Goosebumps fan. I'm like, my my COVID project has been like, I've been trying to collect an entire Goosebumps set, which is like hundreds of books. Like,
Wow.
it's like
yeah,
that's been really fun. It's a cool time for pop culture, man. Like, there's so many good cartoons and movies and stuff like that. Like, I love a lot of video game stuff. I love like Resident Evil. I love Goosebumps. I think it's just a really good time in general for that type of stuff. So, yeah, it's just cool. It's a great time to both be like a reader and to create stuff, because we're in an industry where people are just making so much cool stuff, and it's kind of an honor to be able to be part of that.
I hear you. Now I know you're a big horror fan, and I've been. I'm not a big horror fan as far as the movies themselves, but I do appreciate the genre. This sounds so condescending, but I really do mean it. Where I'm fascinated by where movies are compared to TV.
Yeah,
and really the two genres that are thriving are big recognizable franchise tentpole sort of movies, and then horror as far as the theater going experience. But by that same token, I know our buddies Mike Morisi and Tim Seeley have a movie that they've made that they make during COVID with a really smart premise. I'm forgetting the title of it right now. You might remember, and if you don't, it's okay. But it's basically a peep show kind of film where it's like a stripper and a voyeur, and it's again that allows them to be separate as far as where they are in the store. As far as being able to shoot them during COVID and everything. I think it's a good idea, but I am fascinated because from a budget standpoint, those are like the two extremes.
Oh yeah.
It's hundreds of millions of dollars for the franchise movies versus sometimes under 20 million. Sometimes Blumhouse can do it for 5 million. It's fascinating. And I don't know if you've had any thoughts on that or observations on that.
Well, I think just like horror in general has always been, played. The strength of horror is playing toward constraints. And I think just like creatively, I always tell people just like working with an editor and working with a budget and working with, constraints, you can only do so much. You can only do this, and this. It makes you be able more inventive, and you got to figure out more stuff. And I think horror has always been on the cutting edge of that. I think especially since, I don't know. I mean, honestly, since like 50s, 60s, and 70s, but I feel like the biggest twist, I think, with horror nowadays, like streaming is such a huge part of that sort of thing, because like VOD and all that, that's all that's all from horror, because there's such a dedicated fan base. Like, people are so down with just consuming as much as they can with horror, instead of just like picking and choosing like this, whatever. Horror fans are just like so diehard with that sort of thing. And just I love the concept of like they're okay. And not that they're like my favorite movies or anything, but stuff like, like Paranormal Activity and Saw and all those are like pretty low budget movies considering like the other stuff that comes out, but they just make so much money. But also they figure out cool ways of like playing towards the strengths of only having X amount of money, So you think about stuff like Blair Witch and you think about like found footage stuff and all that. It's like, it's really interesting just to seeing like really good stuff could come out of having a huge list of like things you can't do. Like, you can't do this, we can't afford this, we can't do this. It just helps you creatively to like figure out, all right, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make this scary if I don't have this, this, and this? And I think that's what always makes horror so cutting edge. It plays to those strengths so well.
I also think that the genre plays better to a group audience.
Oh yeah.
I mean, again, every horror fan can enjoy the one-on-one experience of streaming. But yeah, I mean, it really is like, going to a haunted house and hearing everybody scream.
That's fun. Yeah. There's nothing like it.
Yeah. And I think that will be one of the surviving things. Although, man, I don't know what you think. I haven't gone to a movie theater yet since things have opened up.
Yeah, I haven't yet. No, I miss it, but not enough to go yet.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so funny. I'm really at a tug of war about Black Widow. Do I want to spend $30?
Yeah.
Or do I want to sit in the theater and, and watch it? I don't know. I haven't made that decision yet.
Thankfully, I think, we'll see how things go, but like in the next couple months, 3 movie, like the new Halloween comes out, Halloween Kills. That's coming out in October. So that's like, I saw the 2018 one in the theater, and that was like so much fun. You know, like those are cool watching at your home. But like you said, there's nothing like having a good crowd, having that energy, having people scream at the right moments, laugh at the right moments. You know, I think it's fun. It's like an event. It's not just like watching a movie. It's like you said, it's like a haunted house. You know, it's
now
fun.
you could spoil Halloween H2O or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
But I mean, is Jamie Lee doing the next one too? Is she doing this new one?
She's in it. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, but then they're doing a third one, so it's like I kind of don't know what they're going to do with that.
Sure. But, and I know, you know, I mean, that's great, man. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. She's fantastic.
She's great. Yeah, she's amazing.
So yeah, that's great to hear, and I'm always rooting for her, no matter what movie she makes.
Yeah, she's the best. She's
funny.
Awesome.
She's a great dramatic actor. Great in horror, obviously. Yeah, I mean, and it was always really cool that she came back to the franchise and that they found a reason to do something new with her. So,
well, the cool thing with this one too is like that new one, the 2018 one, they completely ignored all the other ones. So this is just literally a direct sequel to the original
first movie,
78 one.
Yeah.
So it's literally like after that stuff happened in 78, they like say she probably went to school the next day, you know? So it really like hits home as far as like where we were at that time period about like not understanding like trauma and like post-traumatic stress and mental health and all that stuff too. Because in this one, she's just like really messed up from that and probably never got the help that she needed from that. So it's really cool to see them, you know, acknowledge that and talk about that.
Yeah.
That like seeing her as a teenager in that movie and then seeing her as like a broken adult in that one is just really super cool and interesting.
That's cool. That's actually giving me half a reason to go watch it.
You should watch it. It's fun. It's really good. Even if you don't like those movies, it's good.
Who are your favorite horror directors?
I mean, John Carpenter, you know, I love, Wes Craven is awesome. I'm more so like I like a lot of series. Like I love like Freddy movies. I like a couple of Halloween movies, but they're whatever. You know, I love Friday the 13th. I love Fred Decker's really good. Monster Squad's great.
Yeah, sure. That's funny. God, I think of the Friday the 13th movies, and it's so funny because I'm such a old Hollywood nerd.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like Betsy Palmer was like this hot 50s and early 60s actress, and then you see her in the Jason movie, and it's like, yeah, and of course her grisly end. So spoiler, but and maybe that's why it's like shit like that where I'm like that, and dude, The Exorcist scared the fuck out of me. I was a little kid, and to the point where even when they made that new cut where Linda Blair's crab walking on the stairs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's so scary, yeah.
Yeah, but it's exactly, man, because it's such an innocuous scene. And I hate that. I don't want to see that.
No. I need, like, contortion or, like, people moving weird, like, bodies moving like they shouldn't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Exorcist is great. Yeah, I think it's, yeah, I love them all. I'm a huge, I got super into the new Fear Street movies. I thought those were great. They did a trilogy of those on Netflix, and those are really fun.
Cool.
And, I don't know. Horror is just cool in general. I was
going to say, how do you think it plays on TV? And from, you know, American Horror Story to anything else that comes to mind. What do you think of the TV versions of horror?
I don't follow a lot of it. Like I've seen some American Horror Story. Like it's not for me. It's cool to see that. It's weird though, because I feel like it's weird how some people kind of treat horror like it's this niche thing, which it's not. It's like it's a genre just as valid as like drama and comedy and all that, you know?
Yeah.
But there's been some cool stuff. I feel like a lot of the streaming horror stuff has been good. Sci-Fi did this show called Channel Zero that was like an anthology horror thing they did for like 4 or 5 seasons.
Yep.
And that was one. And then something like that or something like Hannibal was like.
Oh, of course.
When Hannibal first came out, I didn't watch it till like years later because I saw it. I was like, how can that be good? It's on like network TV. It's on, is it NBC?
Yeah, it was NBC. Yeah.
And you're like, how can that be good? How can they get away with all this stuff, all that? And like, that's like one of the best horror things I've ever seen. Like, it's amazing. It's like the cast, the writing, the, you know, art direction, like all of it's like amazing.
You know, another NBC show that failed because unfortunately the lead actor, kept failing drug tests and held on to the job. But I really liked their spin on Dracula, where they kind of combined that time period of the late 19th century with the inventions of the Industrial Revolution.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was a really interesting way to frame a Dracula story.
Was that the Stephen Moffat one?
Probably. I don't remember.
That was like the miniseries they did, right? Like BBC.
Oh, then no.
Oh, you're thinking of, okay. I'm thinking of the British one.
Yeah. Then yeah. And I think that Moffat one, wasn't that the Netflix?
That one was, yeah, that was on Netflix. Yeah.
Okay. Because yeah. No, this was different, and it's that guy. I don't remember his name. He's got 3 names. He's got a hyphen in there somewhere, and he did Match Point with Woody Allen before.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Overcame Woody, but yeah.
I gotta check it out. I love vampires.
Jonathan Rhys something. I can't remember his name, but yeah, I thought it hit all the right Dracula notes, and that's another thing. For me, a lot of God, and no offense to all of you out there that are making zombie comics, but I really think after Kirkman and Max Brooks, it's like you really got to impress me with a zombie story.
Yeah,
and I almost feel that way about some of the other tropes of horror, like a vampire story, a werewolf story, even a mummy story, and I'm just like, all right, what can you do with it? Honestly, I do think you guys with Wrapped Up had a very funny.
Thank you.
Series, absolutely. But that said, honestly, I got a great vampire story, and it's like, if I were more of a fan, yeah, I'd probably agree with you. But I'm kind of a hard sell on horror. I got to be honest.
Did you see? It's a Korean film called Train to Busan.
Yes, I did.
You see that? What did you think of that?
It was exceptional,
right? And that was the thing where I was kind of the same way. I'm like kind of done with zombies. I feel like it's been overdone. It's like kind of tired. And then I saw that and I was like, wow, that someone figured it out, someone's able to tell a different type of story within this like familiar thing and all that. And
it's interesting how just like in the 70s and 80s, how the Italians really were making some great horror.
Yeah.
And now it seems like, again, not to generalize, but really that the South Koreans are.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And honestly, it's just a different perspective. It's just like the different approach to storytelling and stuff like that. And even like the American stuff, like the George Romero stuff, like Dario Argento was like, he produced Dawn of the Dead, so he was there like helping out and stuff like that, and having that kind of guiding voice and stuff like that, so it's like and that's another thing that's cool about horror is it's like international, like you see stuff like Guillermo del Toro, the way he tells horror stories are going to be different than how I would or something, because like I don't know, it's just different perspective and it's interesting. It's still the same language but done in a different way,
Understood. You're obviously a lot of your stuff right now is directed to the YA and children's end of comics.
Yeah.
And do you, and again, nothing that's great. And really, again, that's really the hot demographic right now to jump on. Would you like to eventually do any more adult stories? You know what I'm saying when I say adult.
Yeah. It's not something that's like keeping me up at night. I think I'm perfectly happy doing kid stories. If I had to do that the rest of my life, I feel like I just get so much out of it, just both like creatively and just like, I don't know, not to sound like a dork, like spiritually, like it's really like an uplifting thing being able to create something that connects with kids.
Sure.
Yeah, it's that would be cool, but that's not something I'm like, it's not something I feel like I have to do right now, like that would be cool. But also too, I feel like my approach in being able to do like work for hire stuff and like, work on different properties, it's still, I feel like I could still tell the types of stories I want to tell. And they don't necessarily have to be aimed towards kids, but it wouldn't be really that much different than how I would write, the kid stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then also I think something people don't get enough credit for as far as, writing comics for kids. And this is something I never thought of until I actually started making them. Is like, I have parents come up to me at conventions and events and signings and stuff like that. And they'll like thank me. They're like, oh, hey, I appreciate that. This book is actually really funny. That you put stuff in there that, adults find funny too and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not like sitting there being like, oh, hey, who am I need to make this person laugh and this person laugh and all that. But I feel like a good story is going to be a good story, And I think a lot of people make the misconception of like, kids books are just like simple language, or you just have to like, and that's not it. That's not like what makes a good story.
No.
So I love I kind of just like make stuff that I would still appreciate too, and like
Sure.
laugh at and stuff. So that kind of helps me kind of not have to aspire to work on other stuff, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm with
Yeah.
you. Scoot says he's a big fan of Child's Play.
Yeah, me too. Love Chucky. That's the thing. Let me do a Chucky comic. Me and Scoot want to do a Chucky comic.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that's and again, forgive my ignorance. There
Yeah.
have to have been Child's Play comics, no?
There was, yeah, in the 90s. Actually,
Wow,
there
that's
was
long ago. That they had
Tim
recently.
Seeley wrote a bunch of them. One of our Chicago creators, Tim
Of
Seeley.
course. Yes.
Yeah, I always try to. I need to just like next time I'm by his place, be like, please give me some Chucky comics. Because he did those like chaos Chucky comics, and they're super funny.
All right, that's
Like a lot of them, yeah.
He was publishing them. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they'll have like photo covers of Chucky, and they're really funny. And they have like, I'm sure they have like foil and like lenticular, like Chucky covers, and those are really funny. Yeah.
John wants to know if Chucky is your baby. I've heard people asking if you've had a baby.
Yeah, Chucky, I would say that. Chucky's my son. I would say so. Yeah.
Outstanding, man.
Yeah,
That's
my
great.
boy.
Lovely. Fantastic.
I take him to the grocery store, and I take him to the park, and all that stuff.
How about are you during the COVID year? How did that impact your writing? Did you, and again, there's no wrong answer to that. So please tell me how the last 16 months have been.
Creatively, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was talking to someone about this yesterday about like free time doesn't equate to creativity. You know what I mean? It's not just like just because you have a bunch of more hours in the day and you're not going out or you're stuck at home, like that doesn't just mean, at least for me, that you could just like come up with stuff and you have time to like write a bunch of stuff. I had a really, really hard time creatively because I feel like so much with like comics and just writing and making art in general is like having a process. And like, unfortunately, part of my process was like actually getting out of the house to write. Like I write in like coffee shops.
Sure.
And not being able to do that was just messed everything up, because it's like I can't work at home. Some people can do it, and that's cool. Like, God bless you if you could do that. Like, I'm just like, I have video games and toys and a million other things I could be doing at home, and I really need to be able to get out of the house to be able to be like, okay, I'm out here. I need to work. I need to do at least 10 pages, whatever, to get that done. So that was a huge adjustment. Thankfully, I have really cool editors, and everyone's understanding, and everyone was kind of affected by this differently and kind of didn't realize, but it was really tough. Yeah, I'm not gonna like sugarcoat it. Like I had a very hard time, just a hard year in general. But at the end of the day, it kind of, I'm glad I had stuff to work on. But like having to write, like a funny, uplifting book during like probably one of the darkest times any of us will ever have in our lives, it was like
Absolutely.
a challenge, but it was also kind of cool because it kind of like, I never lost faith in it. I just kind of just like wasn't able to work, if that makes sense. But it was still something I was super passionate about. I feel like if I had any opportunity to like, I don't know, have second guess what I'm doing or something, it was never like that. It was kind of just like, I can't, like, I'm having such a hard time working.
Yeah. No, dude, I'm the same way in terms of loving to be in coffee shops when I'm trying to be creative. And also, I'm a big believer in what the great director and comedian Mike Nichols used to say in terms of downtime is important for creativity, just to relax your brain and let ideas kind of sift in when you're not thinking about it, and suddenly an idea will just kind of pop in there. And I'm a firm believer in that. And again, that requires you to be relaxed and not
totally.
like, all right, the walls are closing in on me. What the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
And it sucks that I can't leave the house. I truly, and I've talked about this. I was, I guess, lucky. I had this stupid leg infection 2 years ago. So I was kind of trapped, and they weren't letting me walk around and do much walking as I was recovering from that. So I was kind of prepared. I literally, like 2 weeks before the shutdown, my doctors are like, all right, come back for one more checkup at the end of March 2020. And we'll let you swim, and you can walk freely and things like that. And then they lock down the state, and it's like, all right, great.
Yeah,
So,
it was. Yeah.
But I mean, did you did you at all explore beyond? And then again, obviously, I'm assuming you were pitching to Random House, and then that. Do you have an agent, or do you?
I do, yeah. Charlie Olson at Inkwell Management. What's up, Charlie? If you're listening, thank you for putting up with me.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, that's helped significantly as far as like with the book market. It's kind of just like, just with there's so many more factors with signing contracts and book deals and payment and rights and royalties and like all that stuff too. And I'm like pretty okay with like kind of like understanding some of that stuff, but honestly, any legal contract in general, it's like you don't read one line and you sign it and you screw yourself, So it's like, having that oversight and having someone like kind of champion for you and pitch for you and talk to people and have hard conversations that you don't have to have. It's like a lifesaver. Like if you're looking to get into like kidlit, like book market, like you got to have an agent. Like it's not like a luxury. It's like a necessity. You got to do it.
Yeah, I could appreciate that definitely. And how did he become aware of your work?
So I kind of just knew just from like he represented some people who like just like anything like people like he represented people's work who I admired. And so the whole thing with an agent, I could try to explain it really quickly, is most times you have to query it. So you basically like write a letter of basically kind of like auditioning, right? Being like, this is who I am. This is what I want. Here's my work. Because an agent's only going to get paid if you get paid, right? Like, so they get a cut of what you do. So it's basically like not worth it for them to just like sign everyone and just like have to manage all these people and whatever, it's like they have to kind of know that you're someone who could create something that they could sell and market and, publish or whatever. So I got in kind of in a weird way, which is not like super untraditional, but I had already pitched Mayor Goodboy just through like me and Miranda were just like in touch and getting stuff together and kind of doing all the footwork first. And I basically was able to be like to Charlie, hey dude, we have an offer here. What do you think? Are you interested in whatever? So like for me, that was just like way easier because it's like, I know I get paid to write, but I'm a horrible writer sometimes with stuff like that. And it's hard, it's like, a lot of work. It's a lot of work to try to get work, like it's just like constant thing, like over and over and over.
Sure.
So yeah, we kind of got in basically where we already had an offer through Random House, and then we got Charlie involved, and then he was like, hey, this is cool. I signed with him, and then the rest is history.
That's great, man. Are other doors opening beyond Mayor Goodboy as far as other projects and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think with like my career, I've always kind of tried to still do stuff that I like and admire, but stuff like they always say, I don't know if this is a comic specific thing or whatever, but you're only as good as your last comic, right? Like your own book.
Sure.
So it's like, not to sound like a jerk or anything, but it's like everybody has a comic idea, everybody has this, and this.
Yeah.
But to be able to be like, my career has basically been shaped on, here's this thing I made. I kind of want to make this. Here's this thing I made. What about this? Like you have tangible proof of being like, hey, this dude can collaborate with artists. This guy can do this, and this. So I kind of was able to, pave my path like a little bit, with that sort of thing. So thankfully I already had published work basically just through harassing editors and, getting people to collaborate with and all that stuff too, and yeah, it was cool. But I, honestly, most of it was kind of just like I had other stuff to show for it, instead of just being like, here's this idea, whatever,
Yeah.
Because anything that's created, any book that's made, any comic that's like finished is like a miracle, like they're very hard to make, and seeing that thing, like being like, oh, hey, this dude made this book. Oh, this dude worked with DreamWorks. This dude worked on some Adventure Time stuff. This guy worked on whatever, like that's kind of like, that's how I kind of got like momentum as far as,
sure,
getting other work,
That's awesome, man. I didn't, shame on me. I don't have any of your Adventure Time covers up or anything. How many Adventure Time stories have you done?
I just did one issue. That was honestly funny you should mention that. That was like my first like published like big industry thing. But the editor who hired me, Whitney Leopard, is my editor on Mayor Goodboy. She's at Random House now. So she hired me for my first direct market gig. And now I'm working with her on my first huge book market gig. So it's like, kind of cool how that stuff works out, you know.
That's cool. I'm looking at John's comment here. We have talked about Wrapped Up, but he'd like to ask if you're hoping Wrapped Up will help you pitch another project, and are you hoping for more adventures with Milo and his crew?
Like I said, we love working on Wrapped Up. Like that's like me and Scoot. Like that's like our heart and soul. You know, like that's just like our humor. If you've ever met us in person, that's like very much like us on the page. Yeah, just tell people to buy the book and we'll see what happens, you know. We're still really, really proud of the work we did on that book. And yeah, you can still get it. You still get it through your local bookstore, through your comic shop, or, you know, we have 2 trade paperbacks of that. And like I said, we still have kids reaching out and stuff too. Like it's, you know.
Is that through Sword Point?
That is through Oni.
Oh,
Oni Press.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Oni has Wrapped Up. Very cool.
Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah, that's great, man. Yeah, the only other question I wanted to ask you was during COVID, beyond the direct market and beyond the book market, were there other platforms that you considered? I mean, you know, again, people are kickstarting. You know, Marcos Martin's Panel Syndicate is getting a lot of projects, things like that. So were there other platforms you were considering?
Nothing COVID specific, but I'm still very much into the idea of just doing self-published stuff and, you know, mini comics or just doing our own thing or even like fan comics. I have some ideas in my head that I want to just, because I feel like when you're working on huge projects, it's like cool and amazing. And I'm like super grateful to be able to do those. But I do just miss being able to just do like, you know, some weird little, you know, comic about like boogers or something, you know, like it's, you know what I mean? Like not having to put like years of like thought and work into it. I kind of just miss the spontaneity of kind of just being like, here's this stupid idea, let's do it.
Sure.
So it's cool, but that's the thing. Like I'm still able to do that. It's not like just because I have a book, you know, through Random House, I'm not able to do my own thing either, you know? So I'm kind of just seeing like what I want to do, like what bugs me and what I want to do creatively. So it's kind of, yeah.
Well, and then as you're breaking through in a mainstream way, the great thing will be people will want to read more of your stuff.
Yeah, totally.
They'll find the mini comics. They'll find the quirky stuff.
Yeah.
So that's great, man. No, I've been watching that happen with a lot of my friends over the years, and that's great to see. So, you know, hopefully that will be the case for you, man. So again, when does Mayor Good Boy come out?
So Mayor Good Boy is out August 31st. You could pre-order it through like the Random House website. I could, you can just check my Twitter. I have like links on that and all that. And it's gonna be in like major retailers and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure Amazon has it too to pre-order as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I would, if I could recommend anything, I would just say if you have a local independent bookseller, I would try to get it from there. If you don't, just get it wherever you want to get your books. But I prefer, you know, supporting smaller shops and comic shops and stuff like that. But do your thing wherever you want to order it from. It would be awesome if you did.
Very cool. And look for this collection of Lost Adventures of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then coming in September.
Yeah, literally the day after that week is going to be like the craziest week on earth.
Oh, that's great.
Mayor Goodbye comes out on that Tuesday, and then that Wednesday Star Wars comes out. So maybe my hair will turn white or something that week. I might have a different look.
Hey, that's awesome. That's a great week to celebrate.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's so strange how it worked out, but it's I'm really excited for it.
That's fantastic. Excellent, man. And again, from Oni, it's Wrapped Up. You can get 2 volumes of it. And with my favorite collaborator with Dave Scheidt, Scoot McMahon.
Yeah, he's great. Hi, Scoot. Love you, buddy.
I tolerate him. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah, he's great. He was saying that he sometimes eats cereal on your podcast and it gets you mad.
Well, him existing gets me, man.
Yeah. No, yeah.
It's and he longest time he had like a headset and it just would constantly make noise. And I'm like, you know, are you putting in a swimming pool while we're talking? Yeah. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I was like, what if in this interview, if I just eat like a gigantic bag of Doritos and like just see how John responds? So thank you. I didn't do that. I did that for you, man.
I mean, hey, man. I mean, I'm constantly drinking stuff when I'm stuff when I'm no, it's just water. Yeah, you know, no, definitely, man. So hey, continued success. You got a lot of stuff coming up, and that's terrific. And I'm happy to promote in particular Star Wars Adventures, Wrapped Up, and of course, Mayor Good Boy. So all coming your way from Dave Scheidt. Well done, Dave. It was a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, John. This has been awesome. Thank you.
No worries, man. And everybody, thank you for watching. Two things happening tomorrow. One is live and one is not. The live one is going to be, I'm talking to this amazing filmmaker, Stacy Souther, who just made a great documentary about Valerie Perrine, Miss Tessmacher from Superman the movie and Slaughterhouse-5, and even the infamous Can't Stop the Music featuring Bruce Jenner and the Village People and Valerie Perrine. That's all going to happen live tomorrow night, and it's going to start. I'm trying to do the math and think in my head. It's 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, 10 p.m. Central. And then I'm pre-recording. We tried on Friday to have a live word balloon with Stephen Grant, the fantastic writer of Punisher, Circle of Blood. His name is Savage. So many other great comics. We couldn't figure it out. So we're going to pre-record a Zoom conversation that I will release on video, but also, as we always do, on audio, on Word Balloon. So I wanted to get all that out there. And in the meantime, John thanks us for the conversation. Thank you, John, for watching.
Thank you, John.
And everybody,